Hi, everybody. Mitch Tanenbaum here. Thanks for joining me today. This is a security news update for February 5th, 2023. In the security and privacy alert section, we're seeing a lot more Internet of Things attacks. I don't know whether this is just because we're paying a lot more attention to it, which we should be. I think we're about 20 years behind in terms of protecting Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things. And, a lot of people tell us that, well, we don't run any IoT devices, except that's not true. We're seeing more and more computer controlled this and that, whether it is a compressor in a factory, whether it is an air conditioning system, whether it's cameras, whether it's the elevator in your building. We're just seeing all kinds of Internet of Things devices. And many of these are just put on the same network with everything else. Um, in this particular case, we saw the CISA released an alert on Siemens about their Symantec and Sci Plus lines. Their Internet of Things controllers or programmable logic controllers, PLCs. The risk is relatively low, they say, because it requires physical access. On the other hand, it does affect over 100 different models of Siemens devices, and they have no plans to fix it. My guess is the reason they have no plans to fix it is because it's in a place where they can't remotely upgrade it, or it requires replacement chips or replacement boards. And there's no legal requirement that they do that. I mean, you're kind of out of luck at that point. They sort of suggest, I only say this half in jest, put better padlocks on the cabinets to stop bad guys from getting physical access to the systems. But a lot of these systems are sitting out in, literally in an open field practically, right? Where you have a compressor station with no people, you have an electrical substation, you have a whole variety of things. You have a a telephone or internet relay station, somewhere's in the middle, literally in the middle of somebody's field. And the attackers can get in and get out. They do their reconnaissance. They get in and out before the police ever can respond, assuming the police do respond. And a lot of these things don't even have any kind of alarms or cameras. So, they don't know about it until there's an outage, until something goes down. So, it's a real problem. Until we start taking this seriously, we're going to see more and more issues with this. And I would say, if I was China or I was Russia, North Korea, this would be interesting places because, their goal is to create chaos. And trust me, you turn the power off, turn the lights off, turn the heat off, you'll create chaos. In the patches department, the FAA had a nationwide ground stop last week because of their notice the airman system went down and the backup went down. Turns out that apparently was just purely human error, that some folks were trying to fix it. They deleted the wrong files, and that took down both the primary and the backup system. Backup system was already hosed, so when they took down the primary system, there was no backup. Their solution was to fire the contractor. I suppose, maybe there's some justification to that. I don't know the whole story of why they chose to fire the contractor other than PR. And then, they say now they're going to have two people doing maintenance instead of one. Well, maybe that would detect things, maybe it wouldn't. It's really hard to say. But probably more importantly, they are going to delay the synchronization between primary and secondary systems for an hour. That's probably a good thing because that way, if you blow up the primary system, the secondary system doesn't get messed up at the same time. So, I mean, they're doing what they can do to fix it, but fixing human error, I'll talk about that a little bit later. Fixing human error is really, really hard, and there are no simple solutions for fixing human errors. Let's see here. The California Attorney General has announced a new sweep in front of Data Privacy Day. The CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act, has a requirement that companies allow people to opt out of their selling of their data. And he's already gone after a bunch of people. He's going after more people. And this time it looks like he is going after mobile apps. So if you're in that business and you have clients in California, beware. Again, in the industrial control systems, it's not only Siemens that's being affected, but it's also GE, Contact, and other folks. The bugs just keep on coming. And the challenge is these systems are really complicated to patch, to fix. And while if your PC crashes, you'll be annoyed. If a natural gas compressor station blows up, you're going to be more than annoyed. So interesting challenge. Kind of in the education space, but also in the legal space. Chat GPT is hang on, thanks. Chat GPT, is gobbling up massive amounts of data in order to go off and be the AI that it is, right? And it's a challenge. So if it didn't have the ability to gobble up all this data, then it wouldn't be what it is, and people wouldn't be clamoring for it. On the other hand, some of the stuff that is gobbling up is probably protected intellectual property. The courts are probably a good 10 years behind in trying to figure out, well, what is the copyright violation of a work done by an AI actually look like, and who actually did that work, and who do you sue, who do you throw in jail? It's hard to throw an AI in jail. There's stuff you can do. Obviously, you can go off and litigate, but and also remember that in a lot of cases when you post stuff online, you explicitly give up your rights to the content and allow them to go off and do whatever they want to do with it. But we are seeing, for example, Twitter, of all people, has blocked AIs from accessing their content by way of their API, which is kind of a bit strange, given that Elon Musk is one of the founders of Chat GPT and an investor, but he's not letting it go off and hoover up all its data. So that's kind of interesting. If you create or publish intellectual property, this is an area that you need to understand what's going on, and there's a great article from Wired talking about that. In the breach department, boy, this was a busy week. Lutheran Social Services of Illinois was hacked. It loses medical and ID information from about 180,000 people. Sorry. They just announced it, even though the attack happened a year ago. It's interesting. We shall see. This is likely a HIPAA violation. So I'm guessing the feds are going to come down on these guys. How come it takes you a year to tell people that their data has been hacked? The Taiwanese auto giant Hotai Motors, which does this particular division, does car rental and car share. They had 100,000 customers worth of information that was put on the internet without any protection. Gee, where have we heard that story before? It includes things like your driver's license pictures, your signatures, some payment card information. And of course, since it was unprotected, how do we know who might or might not have gotten it? The Indiana Housing Authority had a breach that affected 200,000 residents. And this is where I really I lose my patience with companies. So they said, let's see what it says. A later investigation determined that IHA, the Indiana Housing Authority Agency, became a victim of a ransomware attack. You didn't know that before? I don't even understand what that means. Maybe it means that when they're investigating the breach, they actually set off a ransomware attack. They admitted that the leak involved names and addresses and dates of birth. It involved that, okay. But then they are required to file a breach notification with the state attorney generals, in this case, Maine. And they said the leak may have also included socials. So why didn't the public announcement say that they're leaked socials? But not to worry, because Indiana is going to go off and give them identity theft protection, like they don't already have it from the last 3, 4, 5 breaches that they've been involved in. So It's just a bit of a mess. JD Sports, which is a big European company, lost data on 10 million customers. But here's the good news: they didn't lose any credit card data. Well, I mean, again, I lose patience with these guys. Um, Credit card data is actually the easiest data to protect yourself from. First of all, under federal law, the maximum liability for credit card fraud is $50, and almost no credit card company actually charges you the $50. Second of all, it can be fixed by canceling your credit card and getting a new one. Pretty easy. On the other hand, when they steal your social security number, your driver's license information, your picture, all that other stuff, how do you fix that? So, I just don't have a lot of patience for these guys. But anyway, I don't know why they'd want to focus on the bad news. Let's focus on the good news. No credit card data was stolen. Um, Renewal by Anderson. Again, I mean, we keep doing this over and over again. These guys, put out these public relations items, and it's like, oh my God, what are you thinking? This time, instead of Amazon, it's in Azure, Microsoft's environment. They left an Azure blob unprotected with customer data for 300,000 customers, documents, photos of people's houses, materials, names, prices, all that stuff. And right after the researchers notified Anderson, they shut down the hole. But they said it wasn't them. So I'm guessing that probably means it was a vendor of theirs or a subcontractor or a hosting provider or something like that. But again, they're being very opaque about it. And I understand why these guys are being opaque because they know they're going to get sued and they're trying to mitigate the damage as much as possible. But I don't know that being opaque actually saves you in a court of law. But I don't know. Maybe these guys do. Maybe it does happen. Next, Tallahassee Hospital, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare is a really big hospital in northern Florida. They got hit by a cyber attack. They are canceling all non-emergency surgeries. They're diverting ambulances. They canceled outpatient procedures. And the only thing they're keeping is level 1 trauma because time is of the excuse me, time is of the essence. And if you divert somebody, they may wind up being dead by the time you get them care. So that's generally not considered a desirable outcome. Hospitals are more likely to pay because of the bad PR, the risk of accidentally killing somebody, the cost of being down. I mean, you cancel all those surgeries; those are big bucks. So the hospitals and their cybersecurity practices are pretty weak in general because they don't have a lot of money, and they have a hard time getting compliance from their employees, especially the doctors. So it's interesting, they say that they're using a manual backup system, and I'm sure they are, and I'm sure it kind of sort of works adequately, but probably not great, and of course, their PR guys say, oh, no, don't worry, patient care doesn't suffer. Well, if patient care doesn't suffer, why are you spending all these millions and millions of dollars on information technology? If it doesn't help anything, then save the money, lower the healthcare costs. I think that's a great idea. And, I think anybody with half a brain cell can figure out that that's really, them just spinning things. And lastly, in the breaches department, Atlantic General Hospital in Maryland is experiencing a network disruption, also called a cyber attack, a ransomware attack in particular, reported by one of the local news outlets. Some services are still functioning, while others have resorted to paper and pencil. But it just keeps on going on and on and on. Ransomware attacks in the healthcare space are running rampant, and the challenge is the healthcare industry really doesn't have the money because the insurance companies are running the show, and I don't know how they're going to fix this, but they have to fix this. Next, the TSA has told the airlines to go secure the no-fly list. Well, that's a lot easier said than done. Actually, I'm pretty amazed that the no-fly list has been able to be kept secret for all these many years since 9/11. Given the number of people they share it with. In this particular case, it was left unprotected on an internet website, or an Azure or Amazon blob. Uh, you know, uh, again, this is human error, and human error is hard to fix. Um, I think one of the organizations that is going to wind up having a bit of a problem with this breach is the government, because people have tried to sue for being on the no-fly list, and the government has said, "Well, how do you know you're on the no-fly list? It's secret. You can't know." Well, now it's not secret anymore, and they can know. And so those people who up until now didn't have standing now probably do have standing, and it's going to be interesting unless the government can show that no, we've removed you from the no-fly list. Still, the question becomes, well, why was I on there in the first place? In the new forms of attack school, interesting attack vector, hackers have compromised verified Microsoft accounts to sign applications, which have a little badge, kind of like a Twitter blue check mark, but different for Microsoft. That is a level of comfort that people have in terms of downloading and using applications. I think people in general, their level of comfort should be less now as a result of this, because even though Microsoft has stopped this particular attack, there will be other copycats. Next, state-sponsored hackers are changing tactics when it comes to ransomware. So it used to be ransomware was the end game. Now it looks like, at least for some of these guys, ransomware is purely a diversion. It's not an end game at all. And so while you're looking at this thing that looks like a ransomware attack, what they're really doing is stealing all your data. So if you have, and they're using techniques and procedures and processes that look like ransomware. So from the investigator standpoint, oh, this is a ransomware attack. That really wasn't the motivation at all. It was to steal your stuff. And I think that's the kind of direction we're going to see ransomware go in, because a lot of people are just not paying the ransoms. So that part of the business is not generating enough revenue to make it worthwhile. And lastly, in the security news bites section for this week, the Biden administration is moving to halt all exports of all materials to Huawei in China. That's probably a good move. They kind of left open a little bit of a hole previously to deal with spare parts and stuff. But that's going to require China figure out a way to do things by themselves. They may figure it out, but it's going to be very expensive, because all of a sudden, where they could just buy stuff, now they're going to have to invent it and set up the manufacturing processes and all that stuff. Popular derivatives trading platform based in London is down due to a cyber attack, which is forcing their banking customers, their large customers, to do settlements by hand. That really doesn't work because of the time delay that inherently adds to things. So that's not going to be a great thing. Entertainingly, Facebook has been suing data scrapers for scraping data off their site. It just came out, though, in one of these pretrial motions, that apparently Facebook has been paying people to scrape data for them. So just don't scrape our site, but we can scrape your site. That's okay. I'm not sure how that's going to help their case, but I just can't believe that's going to be terribly helpful. Singapore can now order social media companies to censor content or be banned. The social media company itself can be banned. So that's not good, or they can be fined. And the issue is they haven't really defined what objectionable content really means in the law. So what it means is whatever the regulator thinks it means. And lastly, Electrify America charging stations. Apparently, they're easy to hack, and the hacking can do two things. They can steal electricity, which I guess is Electrify America's problem, or it can go sabotage the network, which is everybody else's problem. So that's not great. If you have any questions about any of these things or need some help, please reach out to us. Otherwise, until next time, stay safe, and thanks for listening.
Turnkey Cybersecurity and Privacy Solutions offers the complete cybersecurity program for small to medium-sized businesses. They include everything needed to secure your business and meet compliance requirements. Visit our website at turnkeycybersecurityandprivacysolutions.com to learn more.